What's going on, good people? My name's AJ. We are working on the weekend like usual, and you are watching Straight Talks. By the way, please, if you're enjoying any of the content, like this video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. I'm enjoying making these videos for all of you, and I want to continue doing it, and I appreciate it. Talking about a topic here today related to personal finance, and it's pretty near and dear to my heart because it's a question that I get a lot in my line of work, and it's tough to answer for a lot of people, but I want to give a general guideline here on if in the future, or if someone's close to retiring now, retiring with $1 million is enough. Can you retire off $1 million? There are some really important changes that have taken place in the last 20 or 30 years in our economy or career marketplace when it comes to how employees are provided for in their retirement. For better or for worse, our retirement system in the United States will probably continue to drift in the direction of being slightly less socialist and a little more independent, meaning you're going to have more responsibility on yourself to provide for yourself later on in life. Retirees, whether you're 20 years old today and you're not retiring for 40 years, or if you're watching this video and you're going to retire tomorrow, what I'm talking about here is pensions and Social Security. So I'm going to make a couple points about both of those, and then I'll talk about the $1 million number here. Over 50% of retirees today in the year 2020 retired with some sort of a pension provided by their employer. So whether they are doing a monthly annuity payout from their employer's pension account, or they took a lump sum from that pension and just put it in an investment account and they're living off the interest or capital growth of that account, they had some form of retirement plan other than just the 401k where they're contributing their own funds to that helped them cover their expenses in retirement. Pensions are all but gone in the United States. If you're anything younger than 30 years old, you almost certainly don't have a pension through your current employer, and you probably have a 401k plan, which is still good too. But what pensions did is they required savings from individuals' paychecks. So whether they were paying a deduction from their paycheck directly into a pension account, or the company was just basically paying 3% less in total salary towards all its employees than they would have, and directed those dollars towards a pension account otherwise. For a long period of time in American history, people have had companies funneling money into pension plans for their future benefit, and that is no longer happening. Trust me, I'm not a socialist, but I am a little bit disheartened by this, and I don't blame the companies by any means for that anyway. For other things related to management of pension accounts, I do blame companies, but that's another topic. But what this is going to mean is that I think in 30 years from now, you're just going to have more and more people who realize that they can't retire because they were irresponsible with their finances when they were younger, or they didn't get responsible until they were 52, which is a common theme. And they're not going to have this pension account that their company was funneling money into this whole time to fall back on. I feel like this creates more and more responsibility directly on employees, but also on folks like myself as an advisor in my current practice, and maybe a little bit, as a commentator here on YouTube, to get this information out so that people hear it. It's going to make such a huge impact on your quality of life later on if you don't have any dollars to live off of. I mean, this is, for some people now, a pension account over the last 30 years is for them the difference between being in poverty and not. That's not a small group of people either, and there are going to be a lot of people 30 years from now who otherwise may have benefited from a pension account and they're just not getting one. So I want to encourage anyone listening to this video, you need to do everything you can to save into your own 401k or Roth IRA or after-tax account if you have to, because we're just a little bit less socialist now when it comes to retirement plans. The other big factor here is Social Security, and I think we all know this is kind of moving in the same direction. Now, I don't want to be one of these fearmongers that say, oh, the Social Security account is totally drained, and you see a lot of news articles out there that are really just clickbait that will say, oh, Social Security is going to be empty by 2023, which would be 3 years out from this year. The Social Security fund is really well funded. It's not well enough funded, but there are billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars in that account that are going to continue to fund Social Security payments for a long time. So I'm going to give you my best guess here. This is complete speculation. I have no idea what's going to happen to the future of Social Security payments. We know that they can't continue as is for another 20 years up through the year 2022. My best guess is they just push out the full retirement ages. So right now, for most people, that's like 66 and a half or 67. When Social Security was instituted, I think the average life expectancy was like 66, and you could start taking it at 62 or something around there. It really wasn't meant to fund people for 30 years through their retirements, and just doesn't really have the capacity to do that. And with the advent of healthcare technology in the United States, we have more people living longer, and Social Security just gets drained more by that because you have people who take distributions for a longer period of time. So my best guess is that they'll eventually just push out the age in which you can start claiming on Social Security, and that's probably the best solution. They have to make a change to it at some point. I think it's very unlikely that they take away existing beneficiaries' payments or reduce those payments. So, when I'm getting towards Social Security age, instead of being able to claim at 62 early retirement, my guess is that's 70, and then 74 is regular, and 79 is full retirement, or something like that. But point here is that you're going to want to retire before you can claim Social Security benefits, if I'm right in that speculation. Other people would even take the more pessimistic view, is that Social Security is going to be totally gone and drained. I don't think that's likely, but I guess it's an option on the table. And of course, in that scenario, you're going to be more dependent on yourself. Again, less socialist in our retirement system here in the United States. More dependent on yourself to cover for your own retirement. So these things all are a factor when you're thinking about how much you need saved up for yourself when you get to that point. So here's a really basic topic for anyone who's done any financial planning themselves, but probably something that you haven't considered at all if you haven't done any of that. And that topic is retirement withdrawal rates. Meaning, if you have $1 million saved up by your retirement date, which is a good chunk of money, how much can you take out of that account each year to live off of? Now, what I tell most of my clients is that we want to just try to live off of the interest on some of the capital gains each year. So basically, you want this nest egg of $1 million, and then each year siphon a little bit off of that to cover your living expenses. You're going to see some fluctuations in that million because the market goes up and down over time, and even if you're in a 30-70 portfolio where only 30 of your money's in stocks and most of it's in bonds, you'll still see a little bit of that fluctuation. But on average, over long periods of time, if you can earn about 5% a year, which I think is a realistic goal for most investment allocations, then you can withdraw 5% a year from that account. So your retirement withdrawal rate would be 5%. Now, some people make the argument 4% safer. Of course, it's safer. It's a lower amount to take out of your nest egg each year. Some people would argue that more 6% is still okay. And by some investment allocation, that's probably true. So I'm kind of splitting the mustard here. The reality is that it's a little bit different for everyone based on their expenses and their longevity. So that's a conversation to have with clients as well, or to consider about your own situation here. But 5% is perfectly fine for the illustration of this point, which is that with $1 million, you can live off about $50,000 a year. Now you might be saying, well, hey AJ, I would rather just withdraw more than that. I'm going to take out $100 grand a year, and I don't mind if my account has some drawdown over time, and that's fine too. If you don't expect to live much more than 20 years into retirement, that's okay. But if you put yourself in a position when you're 86 or 90 years old and you're out of money, and your kids or your grandkids have to take care of you at that point, or the government, Medicaid or something like that. Again, that's just lower quality of life. So I would encourage you to use a more sustainable growth rate and hopefully maintain whatever nest egg you have over that period of time. And then if you're 88 and you figure out that you're not going to last too much longer, sure, go on a spending spree or whatever, and then leave the rest for your legacy plan. But an important factor here is that 50 grand a year is a responsible, in my opinion, withdrawal rate from $1 million nest egg. And is that enough for you? If you never used your Roth IRA and it's all taxable, 50 grand a year after taxes probably means 40 grand a year for you. What are your healthcare expenses going to be? If you have a, whatever the healthcare system is 30 years from now, or maybe 2 years from now if you're watching this closer to retirement. Some people pay medical premiums of $500 a month, so $6,000 a year out of your $40,000. Now you have 34 grand a year to live off of. Hopefully your car and house are paid off, because that's not a ton of money, especially if you want to do some gifting to friends or family or any traveling whatsoever. That's less than $3,000 a month for living expenses, and you're someone who can call yourself a millionaire, but you're really not living that lavish of a lifestyle. To wrap this all up, if you're using what I would consider to be a responsible withdrawal rate, and there's no pension and there's no Social Security in the picture, the answer is no. $1 million is not enough to retire on. Now the good news is, it's not all that hard to save up to $1 million if you start early. If you're watching this younger than 30, please start to do that if you haven't already. Use your employer-sponsored retirement plan, 401k, simple IRA, whatever it is. Use a Roth IRA, use an after-tax account if you have to. You only have to put away like $250 a month for your working years to get to $1 million. Anything above and beyond that, I'll tell you, I'm doing a lot more than that personally, because I want to have a lot more than $1 million when I get to that retirement date, because I want more than $34,000 a year in spending money when I'm in my golden ages, so I don't think it's enough. If you disagree, of course, let me know. Leave a comment below. We can hash it out a little bit, but I think it's an important topic, and I want to get this point across to people that you need to take really seriously saving up as much money as you can before you get to that date, and even more than $1 million. Thanks for watching.